Eleanor hurried out of the small grocery store, clutching the bag of groceries tightly in her arms. The late-night chill bit at her skin, sending a shiver down her spine. Today marked her 3rd anniversary with Daniel. She had spent the entire month saving up to buy a bottle of wine and the ingredients to cook his favorite meal. A soft smile played on her lips as she imagined Daniel's reaction. Life had been tough, but she always tried to make things better for both of them. But as she approached Daniel's apartment, she froze. The door was slightly ajar, left unlocked. From inside, faint laughter and intimate whispers drifted out. Eleanor's heartbeat quickened, a sinking feeling settled in her chest. She stepped inside quietly, and what she saw made her entire world crumble. Daniel was holding another woman, an elegant, sophisticated beauty with wavy shoulder-length hair, deep red lips, and an air of confidence that exuded wealth and power. Isabella Monroe, the daughter of a corporate tycoon. Eleanor stood motionless, hoping, praying that this was some kind of misunderstanding. But then Daniel spoke, and whatever fragile hope she had shattered completely. "Isabella, you're incredible. Being with you makes me realize what a waste of time it was being with someone like Eleanor." Her hands trembled, the grocery bag slipping from her grasp. The bottle of wine rolled onto the floor before shattering into pieces. Daniel turned, startled, but instead of guilt, a smirk tugged at his lips. "Oh, Eleanor, perfect timing." Her fists clenched. "Why?" Her voice barely came out as a whisper. Daniel let out a chuckle, his tone dripping with disdain. "Did you really think someone like me would stay with a broke girl forever? Isabella can give me everything you never could." Isabella laughed, looping her arm through Daniel's possessively. "He's finally making the right choice. You should know your place, Eleanor." Tears burned at the edges of Eleanor's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction. Taking a deep breath, she met Daniel's gaze steadily and nodded. "All right," she said, her voice unervingly calm. "I hope you two are happy." Then she turned and walked away, leaving behind the past, the pain, and everything that once mattered. The next day, Eleanor buried herself in work, hoping to drown out the whispers of betrayal still echoing in her mind. But it wasn't easy. News of Daniel and Isabella's relationship was everywhere. Every article, every picture felt like the world was mocking her. Lost in thought, she barely noticed the presence behind her until a cold, commanding voice cut through the silence. "Eleanor." She spun around. Standing before her was Lucas Sterling, CEO of Sterling Group, the most powerful man she had ever met. His piercing gaze was unreadable as he said, "Come with me." A strange feeling stirred inside her, an inexplicable sense of foreboding. Eleanor hesitated before following Lucas into his private office, a vast, glass-walled space overlooking the city skyline. The atmosphere was as cold as the man himself. Lucas sat down, his sharp eyes scanning her. "You've been working for me for 3 years." She nodded, fingers curling into her palm. This was the first time she had been summoned to his office without prior notice. "You're diligent. You never make mistakes," Lucas continued, his deep voice steady and authoritative. "But I heard that something unfortunate happened to you yesterday." Eleanor stiffened. News really does travel fast. Forcing herself to remain composed, she replied, "That's my personal matter, sir. I assure you it won't affect my work." Lucas studied her for a moment before nodding. "I know. But that's not why I called you here." Her brows furrowed. "Then what do you need me to do?" Lucas leaned back, his gaze unwavering. "I want you to be my girlfriend." Eleanor's eyes widened. "Excuse me?" He didn't repeat himself. He simply watched her reaction, waiting. She let out a dry laugh, though her heart pounded in her chest. "You must be joking. Do I look like someone who jokes?" She fell silent. No, he didn't. But why would he, Lucas Sterling, the untouchable CEO, want her as his girlfriend? As if sensing her doubts, he spoke again. "I need a fake relationship. My family is pressuring me into marriage with a woman I have no interest in." Eleanor blinked. "A fake relationship? You won't be at a disadvantage," Lucas continued. "I'll compensate you generously. And during this time, you'll have access to all the privileges of being Sterling Group's CEO's girlfriend." She bit her lip. "Why me?" "Because I trust you," he said simply. And I know you have nothing to gain from exploiting me. Her heart clenched. Of course. She wasn't wealthy, influential, or powerful enough to take advantage of him. But should she agree? Once, she would have rejected the offer without hesitation. But now? She had lost everything. She had been humiliated. Maybe this was her chance. Her chance to stand back up and prove she wasn't someone to be cast aside so easily. Taking a deep breath, she looked straight into his eyes. All right. I accept. A fleeting smirk crossed Lucas's lips. Then from this moment on, you are my girlfriend. The next morning, the headlines exploded with news of Lucas Sterling and Eleanor's relationship. Paparazzi captured photos of them leaving the company together. The way Lucas looked at her, cold yet almost protective, set the internet on fire. Eleanor sighed as she glanced at the headline. Cold-hearted CEO Lucas Sterling dating a nobody secretary, a real love story or just a staged act. She never imagined she would make it to the headlines like this. Her phone buzzed. Lucas. Get ready. There's a family dinner tonight. Eleanor gripped her phone tightly. Right. This was just a contract. She had no right to refuse. That evening, she arrived in a deep blue evening gown, her hair neatly styled, accentuating her delicate features. But the moment she stepped into the Sterling estate, she realized she was completely out of place. The room was filled with high society elites. Every gaze that landed on her carried a mix of curiosity and disdain. Lucas, who is this? A female voice rang out. A stunning woman approached, lips curved into a smile, but her eyes held a sharp edge. This is Eleanor, my girlfriend, Lucas responded coolly, pulling Eleanor close. The woman arched a brow. She's your secretary, isn't she? Eleanor clenched her fists. She knew exactly who this woman was. Victoria Lancaster, the woman Lucas's family wanted him to marry. Victoria let out a light laugh. A secretary, Lucas? Are you serious? Lucas said nothing, but the way his grip tightened around Eleanor's waist spoke volumes. Eleanor took a deep breath, forcing herself to remain composed. But as she met Victoria's piercing gaze, she understood. This was just the beginning of the challenges ahead. The atmosphere at the dinner was tense. Eleanor could feel the scrutiny, hear the hushed whispers around her. She's just a temporary fling. Lucas will get bored of her soon. Every word cut deep, but she refused to let it show. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction. For a while, she excused herself, stepping outside for some air. The cool night breeze brushed against her skin, offering a moment of solace, but before she could take a breath, a voice called from behind. Do you really think you belong by Lucas's side? Eleanor turned, coming face to face with Victoria. Her expression was smug, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against the champagne glass in her hand. What are you trying to say? Eleanor's voice remained steady, despite the storm brewing inside her. Victoria smirked, her eyes icy. Do you honestly believe Lucas loves you? Don't be naive. Someone like you, poor, insignificant, will never have a place in our world. Eleanor clenched her fists. She had expected resistance, but the sheer venom in Victoria's words was something else. Victoria stepped closer, lowering her voice. If you're smart, you'll walk away before he throws you aside. It's only a matter of time. A sharp pang hit Eleanor's chest. Did she really have the right to stand by Lucas's side? Just then, a deep voice interrupted. If she leaves, it'll be because she chooses to, not because of anyone else. Victoria stiffened. Eleanor turned in surprise. Lucas stood there, his gaze cold as steel, locked onto Victoria. Lucas, Victoria hesitated. He stepped forward, taking Eleanor's hand with deliberate firmness. I don't like people meddling in my affairs, he stated icily. Victoria's lips pressed together, her confidence flickering for the briefest moment. You can't be serious about her. Lucas's grip on Eleanor's hand tightened. I don't owe you an explanation. Victoria's jaw clenched, but before she could retort, Lucas gently pulled Eleanor away from the confrontation. They walked back inside, but instead of returning to the dining hall, he led her to the balcony overlooking the city skyline. You didn't have to do that, Eleanor murmured. Lucas exhaled, his gaze locked on the horizon. You're under my protection now. No one gets to decide your worth but you. Her heart skipped a beat. She had entered this arrangement expecting nothing, Yet Lucas's words carried an unexpected weight. For a moment, she allowed herself to believe them. The sound of approaching footsteps made them turn. It was Lucas's mother, Evelyn Sterling. Unlike Victoria, her expression was unreadable. "So, you're the woman who has captured my son's attention," Evelyn said smoothly, studying Eleanor with sharp, assessing eyes. Eleanor swallowed. "It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Sterling." Evelyn's lips curved slightly. "Tell me, Eleanor, what is it that you want?" Eleanor met her gaze directly. "Nothing. I'm not here for money or status." Evelyn's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in her eyes. "Interesting." Lucas's hand remained on Eleanor's back, a silent show of support. "Mother, Eleanor isn't going anywhere." Evelyn glanced between them before nodding. "We'll see." As she walked away, Eleanor let out a slow breath. Lucas turned to her. "Are you all right?" She nodded, though uncertainty still clouded her thoughts. "I don't know what's more exhausting, your family or pretending not to care what they think." A rare chuckle escaped Lucas's lips. "Get used to it." Eleanor wasn't sure if she ever could. But as Lucas's fingers grazed hers, she realized she didn't want to walk away just yet. The next morning, headlines about last night's dinner flooded financial news outlets. CEO Lucas Sterling officially introduces his girlfriend, Secretary Eleanor Collins. Is Lucas Sterling's relationship with Victoria Lancaster over? Eleanor set the newspaper down, her stomach twisting with unease. Before she could dwell on it further, a familiar voice called out, "Eleanor." Startled, she looked up. It was Lucas. He walked up to her desk and placed a folder down. "Come with me." Eleanor blinked. "Where to?" Lucas didn't answer, his gaze steady and unwavering. Half an hour later, Eleanor found herself sitting in an upscale restaurant, facing none other than Lucas's mother, Evelyn Sterling. Mrs. Sterling was a regal woman, her sharp eyes scanning Eleanor from head to toe. "So, Eleanor," she said smoothly, "how long have you been working as Lucas's secretary?" Eleanor swallowed. "Almost 4 years, ma'am." Mrs. Sterling gave a slight nod. "That's quite some time. But I must ask, do you truly believe you're suited for Lucas?" Eleanor froze. The words were eerily similar to what Victoria had said. She clenched her fists, steadying herself. Lucas's brow furrowed. "Mother," his tone held a warning. Mrs. Sterling sighed. "A woman who enters this family needs more than just love. She must be strong enough to endure everything that comes with it." Eleanor bit her lip. Mrs. Sterling placed her teacup down with deliberate grace. "If you can't handle the pressure, it's best to walk away now." The statement cut deep. She wasn't weak. But was she truly strong enough to step into Lucas's world? Lucas reached for her hand under the table. "She isn't going anywhere."